List the promises God made to Abraham, all right? List the promises God made to Abraham. Number 1, he's going to be a great nation. Number 2, the blessing, a great name. Number D is he should be a blessing. Now you can write these down if you've got your syllabus. Well, I'll go back and go a little slower so you'll have the answers, okay? And Genesis 12 and 2, and 15, 1 through 21, Hebrews 11, Genesis 16, and Galatians 3, 6 through 9. That's where we are, all right? These are all cross-references to these questions here. Number A, he's going to be a great nation. Number B, the blessing. Number C, a great name. Number D, that he should be a blessing. Number E, that God blessed them that blessed him. And F, God cursed them that cursed him. Now let's go back to Genesis. All right? Let's go back to Genesis and look at this. Genesis, the 12th chapter, I believe, is where we were last week. You there, Brother Wallen?
Yep.
All right. Could you read 12 and starting with verse 1? Good. All right. And then Genesis 15 and verses 1 through 21. We're going to have to read that to get all of this in here. And Genesis 16 also. Brother, go ahead.
Okay. Now the Lord had said unto him, Get thee out of the country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make thee a great nation. I will bless thee, and make thy name great, that thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curseth thee. And in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed.
All right. That's pretty good. We've got a lot of that. Now go to the New Testament. The Old and the New Testament are tied together, aren't they? There's nothing said in the Old Testament that is contrary to what is in the New Testament. Nothing said in the New Testament is contrary to what's in the Old Testament. The Bible agrees. Galatians 3, 6 through 9. Galatians 3, 6 through 9. And also Hebrews 11th chapter comments on this also. But let's go to Galatians 3. Brother Mike, are you there?
Yeah.
Galatians 3. Okay. Galatians chapter 3.
6 through 9.
Yeah.
Even so, Abraham believed God, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. Therefore, be sure that it is those who are of faith who are sons of Abraham.
Oh, wait, now hold it right there. Just hold your place. Those who are of faith are sons of what? Abraham. Now, what does that also mean there? Not only sons of Abraham, but what? Heirs of Abraham. Heirs of Abraham. So you've been blessed, and you are heirs of Abraham. You are grafted into the Abrahamic promise. Okay? And go on, Brother Mike.
And the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith, preached the gospel beforehand to Abraham, saying, All the nations shall be blessed in you.
All right. Now, what is the gospel? The good news. Where is it found in the Bible? Where?
Corinthians 15, 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's right. 1 Corinthians 15. You got it there, brother? Got it? Let's get it here, Brother Lee. All right. By the way, they love your testimony last week, and it's already been downloaded umpteen times. And before you take off today, I've got a DVD of it for you, Brother Lee. All right?
Moreover, brethren, I declare to you the gospel.
All right, there's the gospel.
Which all should hear that which the Lord
Yeah,
saith.
go.
If you hold fast that which I preach you, unless you believe in vain.
Go ahead, brother. Right, number 3 now.
For I delivered to you, first of all, that which also received, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again on the third day according to the Scriptures.
All right, that's good. That's the gospel. Now, did God tell Abraham about that? What's the Bible say? What's it say in Galatians, the 3rd chapter, verses 6 to 9? That God preached the gospel unto Abraham. Now, Brother Mike, did you finish that?
Just the 9th verse I didn't read.
Okay, go ahead and read verse 9.
So then those who are of faith are blessed with Abraham the believer.
All right. Isn't that beautiful? So you're grafted into the Abrahamic promise. What's taking place back here all the way in the book of Genesis, you are involved in it. You're involved in it. Okay? All right, number G is he shall bless all nations of the earth. Now, how did that happen? How did God bless all the nations of the earth with the Abrahamic promise?
We'll be believers.
We would be believers, but how did he do it? 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, how did God bless everybody?
Except the Holy Spirit.
By raising Jesus from the dead.
Well, by what?
The baptism.
In your seed singular, shall all nations be blessed. In your seed. 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter. That God would become flesh. All right? Where do you find that in the New Testament? What's gospel? How can you quote that in Greek, brother?
Part of it.
Okay, quote part of that John 1:14 in Greek. John 1.
Kai, ho, logos, sarx, agenito.
All right. Kai, hologos, sarx, agenito. And Kai, the word, hologos, flesh, he became. That's what it says. Isn't that beautiful? And the word, now what does that word mean there? Let's look at that anciently. Brother Lee, you remember about the word? The word, the logos? And we talked about, Colin Delish talks about it in the book of Genesis back there, in Genesis, the 22nd chapter. What does that mean? You remember, Brother Lee? That logos? Remember what logos mean? Mm-hmm. Brother Al?
Hebrews.
It's a Hebraism. All right, tell us about that Hebraism. Come on, I'm going to get you guys talking.
It's the unspoken name.
It's the unspoken name of God. All right, and what is that unspoken name of God? What's the name of God that we cannot say? Jehovah. All right. Now we say that name Jehovah so easily, but really it's not speakable. You cannot say it.
So we just say the word.
So we can say the word. And how many of you ever read any Hebrew literature? When they come to the name of God, it's kind of weird what they do. Because they know what this means. How many have you read it, Brother Lee?
Yeah, G/D.
That's it. Because they don't want to say the name of God. Because they think it's blasphemy to say the name of God.
But now we can put Jesus in the place of the word.
That's right.
When you read that.
All right. We can say Jesus. What does Jesus mean? Remember what the name Jesus means?
God fleshed out.
All right. What does Jehovah or Jesus mean? He who shall become. Now, the name Jehovah, what is the Hebrew root word for Jehovah? No. Huh? No. No. Barith is
Salvation.
huh?
Salvation.
It's salvation is in it. But what is the Hebrew word that is the root of the name of Jehovah? It's found in Genesis 1 and 2. All right. Remember, Barashi is Bara, Elohim et Hashemayim, we et Haaretz, and it says we are Haaretz Ha-Yah. Remember that? Ha-Yah. What does that mean? She became. Now that's the root word of the Hebrew word Jehovah. Became. Now Jehovah means he who shall become. That's what it literally means. He who shall become. And John 1:14 is the fulfillment of that. And then all of the Jehovah titles are a fulfillment of Christ. All of the Jehovah titles. All right, we're going to go to the Jehovah title, Jehovah Jireh. Okay, pretty soon, in Genesis, the 22nd chapter. When we get there, we're going to go look at that one, and we're going to see that. What Jesus was talking about in John 8:58 and John the 10th chapter when he was arguing with the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin there. We're going to look at it. All right, number G, under number 7, is he shall bless all nations of the earth. H, and we're going to come back to these. We're going to come back to all these verses again. And he's going to give him the land. Actually, he gave him the land. This is God's title deed to that whole land of Palestine. He gave it to Abraham. Now we got quite a controversy over there right now, don't we?
Have had.
Always have had. Now we're going to get into this, Genesis the 16th chapter also. Now, Abraham was a man of faith, all right, but he made a terrible mistake, didn't he?
Yeah.
With Hagar. All right? When he had a child by Hagar, she was Egyptian. What is the type? What? Egypt is a type of what?
The world.
The world in the Bible. Egypt's a type of the world. Don't trust in the world for anything. Trust in God. All right? Well, he didn't trust in God to bring forth the Messiah out of Sarah, so he had a child out of Hagar, and that child, God did bless that child, but that child also became the father of the Arab nations in all reality. That we have problems over there. And then we have Jacob and Esau. Esau's descendants got mingled in with them. And also we have Abraham's nephew, Lot. His descendants got mingled in with them. Every time we go the wrong way, it's going to cost us. You know, the Old Testament, we don't really need the Old Testament for a lot of things, except we need it for examples for ourselves, how that you just go read the history of God's people. If you want to find out how to not make mistakes, you want to make some mistakes, that's what it's going to cost your children, and children, and children from then on. Over and over again. He's going to give him the land. Number I, his seed, he's going to bless his seed, and his seed's going to be as the stars of the heaven. And I've always looked at this. Now, we're going to study this a little bit in parables, too. But when it talks about the stars of heaven, I believe this is the spiritual seed of Abraham. Because that's the heavenly seed, isn't it? All right? And then and then it talks about, and J, the measure of the land given to Abraham. We find out where the perimeters, where the land was. And we know where that was. It's all of Palestine, actually pretty much from the Fertile Crescent all the way down into Egypt. And I'm going to tell you, one of these days, Abraham's seed are going to possess it. God is not finished with Israel yet. Over here in the millennial reign of Jesus Christ, after the church age and after the tribulation period, over here in this age, the millennial reign of Jesus Christ, Israel will possess the land, and they will represent God. And that will be fulfilled. And by the way, not only are they going to have all that land, they're going to have the whole earth that they're going to be representing. All right, number K. Abraham to multiply exceedingly. Didn't Abraham multiply exceedingly? He had a wife even after Sarah, didn't he? And he had more sons, and they had sons, and sons, and sons, and there were great nations among them. What a multiplication of the seed of Abraham. Yes, Sister Andy.
6 kids with Keturah.
Yeah, 6 kids with Keturah, and they became nations. All right. L. Number L. He would be a father of many nations. That's what we're talking about. Number M. Now here's something. We find several places in the Bible where God changed people's names. All right? God changed Abram's name to Abraham. Now, Abram meant what?
Exalted Father.
Exalted Father. What are the Hebrew words? Let's look at the Hebrew. What's the name for father in Hebrew? Abba. Abba. So we have Abram. Abram. It means exalted father. Now what about Abraham or Abraham? It is the exalted father of many nations, or many, literally. Exalted father of many. That's what he changed his name to. Number N. Number N, he is to be the father of kings. And then number O. The covenant with Abraham and his seed is everlasting. Underline that one when you write it down. The covenant with Abraham and his seed is eternal. How long is it going to last? We talked about last week about God establishing what we call conditional covenants, unconditional covenants, and covenants that were part conditional and part unconditional. Now the unconditional covenant, the unconditional part of this covenant, what part did that play? What type did that play in the New Testament times? That unconditional covenant. Remember what it was? Salvation by grace. By grace alone. There's nothing we do. There's nothing we can add to our salvation. If you want to be blessed, then you need to serve the Lord after you're saved. If you want God to bless you. Of course, you could get God to curse you too. By going the wrong direction. All right? And number P. God is to be their God. Number P. God is to be their God. And then Q. God was acquainted with Abraham. God was acquainted with him. In other words, he was his friend. Number R. In the things that we've studied, Ishmael was to be cast out. Ishmael was to be cast out. Number S. His seed as the stars of heaven repeated over and over again. Why did God keep repeating that his seed would be as the stars of heaven? Because of us. That it wouldn't really be fulfilled until the New Testament times. How many people are going to be saved during the tribulation period?
A lot of them.
A lot of them. Are they going to be saved under what?
Under the evangelism of the 144,000.
That's right. Under the Abrahamic covenant. We are saved under the Abrahamic covenant today. Do you realize that? We are saved under that Abrahamic covenant because God preached the gospel under Abraham. All right? Number T. His seed should possess the gate of their enemies. Now, I'm going to tell you something. That hasn't happened very much yet, has it? Who was the greatest king of all of Israel?
Solomon.
Well, David actually was. He was a warrior king, but he whipped everybody, didn't he? By the grace of God. And then his son Solomon was the richest and the most... The what?
Wise.
I don't know if he was very wise or not. He was wise one time. He did some very unwise things, didn't he? He just thrashed his life. There we have another example. David's son Solomon thrashed his life. He just destroyed, and his descendants.
But David wasn't a good father, though.
What?
David wasn't a good father. That's what it says in
He could have been a better father, yes. David could have been a better father. All right. Well, Israel did have the land for a very short period of time. But one of these days they will possess the gate of his enemies. And then number U, there was the sign of the covenant of Abraham. The sign of the covenant of Abraham. What was that? Circumcision. All right, circumcision. There's more to that than what you'll ever understand. Sometimes I'm extremely shy to even tell you how that covenant was assigned even between Abraham and the others. When Abraham got ready to send his covenant, or his servant, back to get his son a wife, he said he put his hand on his thigh and swore by it. That's a real weird thing. But that was not his thigh that he swore by. It was his seed that he swore by. Now that, it seems really weird to us today. But that's exactly what he did. Because that would be by his seed. He would possess all the land, all the people. And this was the promised seed, wasn't it? Isaac was going to have, he was going to bring forth 2 more sons, wasn't he? That would be wild. That one son would be as wild as Ishmael, wouldn't he? What was the prophecy of Ishmael?
Be a jackass.
It's going to be a wild donkey. How many of you ever had anything to do with a wild donkey? Have you, Bill? Yeah. What do you think about a wild donkey?
Well, I don't want to get into the fact that Tim and a woman have a lot in common, being hard-headed.
You may beat him up with a. Have you ever heard of a squall beating, Brother Bill? You've heard of a squall beating.
I've had a few
I
squalls
wouldn't-
before
I
the
wouldn't-
hurricanes come along. But they are about the time that you think you got them broke, you find out that you really don't have 'em broke.
That they got you.
I remember one time
Breaking women.
I've been in several movies over the years, little bits and pieces.
You've been broke.
The first movie that I was ever in was up in Nevada on Mr. Cord's ranch. You remember the Cord automobile and the Duesenberg and the Auburns? I worked for Mr. Cord. I was his horseman. And his foreman there had a bunch of wild donkeys. And he wanted me to train these wild donkeys. And I trained the wild donkeys. And I thought I had one of them trained really well. I put him in a cart and everything else. But they wanted me to ride a wild donkey in this movie. It was called The Nevada Story. And there was a whole lot of cameramen out there and everything else, and we were going down the lane coming into this beautiful place. It was the Cord Ranch, the Circle L Ranch in Fish Lake Valley. And I was supposed to ride this donkey down there, you know how they do, like you see them in Mexico and stuff. Well, I was riding this donkey, and the only thing, when donkeys come up to a stream of water, what do? They balk. They won't go across it. And in the Cord Ranch, they had streams running all through there with fish in them. Oh, it was beautiful. This was like a paradise. There wasn't a leaf on the ground. I mean, it was so meticulously picked up. Anyway, I'm riding this donkey down the lane into the Cord Ranch, and they're taking pictures of him with several cameras. And he comes up to the stream, and he won't go. So they shut the cameras off, and they said, "Cut!" They run out there and they grab the donkey. They grab the donkey with me on the donkey and pick me and the donkey up. All these best boys, or whatever you want to call them, pick us up, put us over the stream and on the other side, and then I go down there and I'm going on down the lane and I'm back on camera again. All of a sudden that donkey sees something that he doesn't like or something, and he breaks in two, and I shoot up in the air about 6 or 7 feet and fall flat on the ground. On camera. He wasn't quite broke. If you go out and to a wild herd of donkeys, Marilyn, you saw a donkey, some wild donkeys one time, didn't you? Up by a long time. What part of them that was scary?
Their teeth.
Their teeth. They'll come at you with their mouths open just like this. I mean to tell you, they will come after you. You go out there and you ride up and you gather your cattle up. We used to have to go down from Fish Lake Valley and the Eureka Valley, and down in Eureka Valley, we'd go out there and gather up all the bulls and stuff. We'd leave them down there to range, and we'd gather up the bulls. But we had a lot of trouble with the donkeys. If you got near a herd of wild donkeys, here come the main jacks, and they would come with their mouth open and then wheel at you when you got there, and they bite you. I had one time, I was training the wild donkey one time, and it kept bucking and bucking and bucking and bucking, and it didn't throw me off because I was ready that time. Was unexpected over there in that Nevada Story. But that donkey, he couldn't get me off, so he reached around and bit my leg, put my leg in his mouth. And I reached down and I got his ear in my mouth. I bit his ear till some of it came off. He turned loose of my leg. But donkeys are unpredictable and they are wild. Now, if they've got anything to fight that comes around them, they'll fight it. But when there's nothing else to fight, they will fight each other. Does that sound like the Arabs? Now just think about it. Does that sound like the Middle East?
Oh, yeah.
If they got an enemy around them to fight, they'll fight. But whenever nobody's there, they'll figure out something to fight about, and they'll get them swords out, and they'll start cutting up each other. Like wild donkeys. Like wild donkeys. Now God, that was a prophecy that is solid and indelible and tattooed into the personality of these people.
And
All
then
right.
they have the gall to say it is a religion of peace.
Yeah. I have got a track. Now we're going to go in I brought this track out before. I've got a track, a Muslim track that says that they have never persecuted anybody, that they believe in freedom of religion, and come to their mosque. Boy, that'd be pretty. That thing was dated before 9/11 and before all the stuff over there in the Middle East. I don't know whether they had to revise that track or not. It was a track like you have
I'm
now.
still saying things.
Thing. Number 8, Brother David.
Yeah, I have a question. I want to go back. You said that Abraham, before he sent his servant,
Yeah,
put his hand on his thigh or
yeah,
his seed.
yeah.
In Revelation 19 and 16, is that the same?
No,
No.
no, not the
Okay,
same thing.
No,
That's different.
that's different.
This down here is a definite, in Book of Genesis, that is a definite reference to that, and that meant a lot to them back then. That's a kind of unmentionable today, but that's exactly what happened. All right. Number 8.
Jim,
Yes.
what was I and J?
You skipped it. No.
Why didn't you write?
All right, let me give you I and J again. Get back to I. I is his seed as the stars of heaven. And J, the measure of the land given to Abraham. That was a measure of the land given to Abraham. We talked about that they had never really possessed that very long, but the covenant tells us.
What was H?
All right. Did anybody miss anything else?
Gee.
H was gave him the land.
Oh.
All right. H is gave him. Anyone else in there? Do you want anything? While we're K. All right. K. Okay. Abraham to multiply exceedingly his descendants would, and they have, and they are still multiplying today, spiritually, mainly. Anything else?
R.
R. R. Let's see.
Seed is the start of it.
R is Ishmael cast out. Ishmael is cast out. All right. Anything else?
G.
G. All right. He shall bless all nations of the earth. In his seed, singular, shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Anything else? Which one?
E.
E. E.
You were talking too fast.
Bless them that blessed him. All right. Now we talked about this a lot last week. He shall bless them that bless him and curse them that curse him. All right. E is he blessed them that blessed him, and F cursed them that cursed him, or will curse him. You got to be careful what you do to Abraham's seed. All right. Number 8. All right, on page number 33. Are we on page number 33 together? No.
32.
You're on 32. I'm on page 33. So you're still on page 32. All right, list some of the nations that came from Abraham. Israel. That's the promised nation. That Israel. That is the only nation that God has ever had. Do you know that? A lot of people say, we are God's people. But God had one nation. That's the only nation that He ever had. That's it. That's Israel. Israel. All right. That's God's nation. Arabia and Turkey. These are all direct descendants of Abraham. Now, number 9, we kind of discussed this already. Number 8 is Abram. What does Abram mean? Exalted or high father. Okay, exalted or high father. Number B. What?
Exalted father of many.
Abraham. High exalted father of many, or father of multitudes. I got to look at this camera for a minute. Wasn't wrong with the tape in there, so I had to take care of it. Come on, little machine. All right. Abram, high father. Abraham, exalted high father. All right. Number 10. This is going to get down here. We've covered some of this today, but we're going to look at it very much in depth. In what way was the promise, he shall bless all nations of the earth, be fulfilled? That he shall bless all nations of the earth. Let's go back to Galatians, the 3rd chapter again. Galatians 3. We covered these a little bit before. Let's read Galatians 3 and 6 through 9. Have you got that, Tony? Are you there? No. Who has that? Galatians 3. Have you, Marjorie? Galatians 3? Oh, okay. All right there, Richard. Richard, you did a beautiful job at the banquet last night. I always loved to hear you play that saxophone, boy. Galatians 3, 6 through 9.
Consider Abraham. He believed God, and he was credited to him as righteousness. Understand then that those who believe are children of Abraham.
All right, those who believe are children of Abraham. Is that you? Are you Abraham's children? Sure you are. Go ahead, brother.
The scripture foresaw that God would justify the Gentiles by faith and announce the gospel in advance to Abraham. All nations will be blessed through you. So those who have...
Okay, all nations will be blessed through your seed, singular. Through your seed. Now, who does that refer to plainly? Seed, singular. Christ. Christ was fulfillment of the Abrahamic promise. All right, to all the world. Go ahead, brother Richard.
So those who have faith are blessed along with Abraham, the man of faith.
All right. So we all are children of Abraham, aren't we? All children of Abraham. The National Geographic put out an article here. You know, when you get this old, years go by and it seems like months and days. It's got to be a few years ago, sometime or another. It said Abraham, the father of many nations. All the world recognizes that Abraham really lived. You know what atheists say? You know what some of the atheists say? That Abraham was really a mystical character, that he didn't really exist. Do you know that? Do you realize that? That some of the atheists say that Abraham never existed? You know what the Arab world says about Jerusalem?
It belongs to...
Well, they say it belongs to them, the Arabs. But what do they say about... do you think that Solomon's temple ever existed? Well, of course it did. But they say it never existed. Didn't happen. There is a term in mental illness called denial.
Ignorance.
Well,
Denial.
more than that, it's in order to believe their own religion, they have to lie to themselves.
That's right. All the evidence. Here a while back, I showed you a movie about this. It's been a year or two ago now. In Sunday school class, I showed you about they had gone into the temple area, and Israel has, you know, who owns the temple area?
Well, Israel does.
Israel owns it. They fought for it. Now, any more normal nation, when you fight for a piece of land and you get the piece of land, you have the piece of land and you do what you want to with it. But there's a problem there in Old Jerusalem. What is that problem?
The Arabs are there, Muslims are there.
There's a whole lot of Muslims down there. How many Muslim nations are around Israel? Are there any around them?
Well, surrounded.
They're totally surrounded by Muslim nations. Every direction. How many of them are there? The sands of the sea. Like the sands of the sea. There's gobs of them. Now, if Israel, when they ran in there after they got the city of Jerusalem, and they went to the Wailing Wall, the only thing that is left, now just remember this, now the only thing that's left of the Temple of Solomon is the foundation of that Wailing Wall. And I've looked down in there and you can see the temple's stones, Solomon leveled off that temple area, and he put these foundation stones in there. And there's some of them still there. And the Jews ran in there. You've been to the Wailing Wall, I'm sure, haven't you, Brother Wally? Anybody else been to the Wailing Wall? Here, Sister Andino? You can go to the Wailing Wall, and those stones are still there. Some of the stones that Solomon laid. Those Jews went there, and they started kissing those stones and just wailing. They call it the Wailing Wall because they wailed there. And they hadn't even been in that area for hundreds of years. They were kept out of there. But what in the world kept them from going in there and knocking down the Mosque of Omar and that other Silver Dome mosque over there, whatever the name of that one is, I can't remember that. Well, the Dome of the Rock is the Golden Dome, Mosque of Omar. Okay. The other one is
the word pronounced Yahad.
yeah. The other one is another one. That's one of the largest congregations where they can put one of the largest congregations of any mosque is in hell. Both of them are in the city of Jerusalem. Why didn't they knock those mosques down and just build the Temple of Solomon? Or, you know, where the temple used to be?
Two reasons, I think.
What?
One is it would have united the Muslim nation. The
Those
second
wild
is,
donkeys.
Yeah.
The wild donkeys.
And the second is,
The wild donkeys would have been united. Remember when we talked about the wild donkeys?
Yeah.
When nobody's around, they'll fight each other. But if they've got a common enemy out there, here they come, boy, after the common enemy.
and the other reason I think, this is personal, Jim, I'm just...
I don't want that one.
I believe that, because I just watched another deal on National Geographic here just this last week or so where they've got all of everything ready to do. I think when Israel goes in and takes that mosque to build it, that's going to be the start of Armageddon to me.
Well, you can just understand this, that if they go in there and they knock that mosque down, there is going to be an instant war with all the Arab nations. Yeah, they all agree, even the Jews, that if they go in there and knock that mosque down and take that city over, that's going to trigger the War of Armageddon, the one we call the War of Armageddon, the end time war, because all of those nations are going to go against them, brother.
There's another thing that it was not God's time. I think there is a time it's going to happen, but 60 years ago was not it.
No, it wasn't.
It
Now-
started something, but
It started something. Israel possessed the land, but Israel does not possess Jerusalem.
not that portion
No,
of it.
not that portion of it.
Jim, there was,
When they do possess Jerusalem, look up. I don't even think we're going to be there, but if they do possess Jerusalem, look up, or your redemption is going to be real near. And if that happens while we're still on this earth, we're real close to the end. We're real close to the end time. All right, we've covered that. Number 11.
yeah, Jim, can I
Yeah.
add one more thing
Yeah.
to that? That the National Geographic said there's rumor has it that they said that Israel has the Ark of the Covenant, but they have the Ark. They kept it secret, but they've already retained it and have it ready, and that's the reason that they are preparing everything. That whenever they rebuild it, every stone, everything they've got is like it was. They showed the priests that were being trained, that they'll be able, like that guy, what's that guy on television, comes in and builds that house in 7 days or whatever, that they'll be able to go in and build that quick. But National Geographic's, the answer they had was that the rumor has it that Israel does have the Ark. And it's
Well, they already have they even have the golden mitre for the high priest. They have all of the things that they have been over there making the harps, the lyres. All of this stuff is ready. They're ready. But they expect God to knock that mosque down. They're really expecting God to knock it
Well, a lot of things, but then you got to remember that the National Geographic is an atheistic magazine.
Yes, it
Don't
is.
ever forget it.
Yeah. You have to remember that. But if the atheists are talking about this, pay attention. When the atheists are talking about this, pay attention. They're talking about what's going to happen in the end time. The Jews are ready. They have got all the instruments. They've got everything done. They have donated all that gold and silver, and they have all of this stuff ready. The high priest's garments, everything is all. They're all ready. They're ready for God to knock that temple down.
They're
temple
lacking
down.
the red heifer yet.
Yeah, well, now let me tell you about the red heifer deal. First of all, there's all kinds of theories over the Ark of the Covenant ever since the Raiders of the Lost Ark came out. Boy, did that trigger a bunch of stuff. I remember that. Remember, brother, when I got a copy of that and we played that in my house over there so many years ago when that came out. We watched the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and ever since then they've been wondering where the Ark is. The book of Maccabees, which is one of the books in the Apocrypha, tells us that Jeremiah, and even in the Old Testament, it tells about Jeremiah hiding, being warned of God. And the book of 2nd Maccabees, the 2nd chapter, says that Jeremiah was warned of God and that he took the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant and all of the holy things and took them and hid them in what now is Jordan. And put them in a cave, but they would not be revealed until the last time. There are all kinds of different ideas. There was one idea that the Ark of the Covenant was hid in a tunnel underneath Jerusalem, and actually the tunnel was right underneath the cross of Calvary where Jesus was, and that when they stabbed him in the side and the blood flowed out, that the ground cracked and the blood went down all the way through the ground. Now this is hearsay, and this is okay. You know what you've heard of this probably.
I haven't heard.
And went all the way down, and that blood dripped right on top of the Ark of the Covenant on the mercy seat. I don't really.
Pretty fancy.
It's pretty fantastic.
But yesterday I heard one on TV where they think it's in England now.
Yeah.
That's so dumb.
It's been in Africa. It's been in Libya. It's been in England. It's been under the city of Jerusalem. But Maccabees says it is in that mountain where God showed Moses the promised land, which is in Jordan. And Israel historically accepted that as historical fact. And also, the book of Jeremiah speaks of that also. So I would say that was more valid than anything, wouldn't you? And I think probably that it's over there. And when God wants, it says when my people come back to me, that I will show them where the ark is. And then they will have it. All right? Number 11. And then we're going to finish right there. Number 11. Although Abraham had no children by his wife Sarah, and God changed Sarah's name too, didn't he? All right, Sarah to Sarah. Until he was 100 years old, 400 years later, he had at least 2 million descendants of that immediately blessed family. 2 million descendants. Now, where were they?
Grew up in Egypt.
They grew up in Egypt. Egypt is a type of the world. God always has trouble with his children and the world, doesn't he? He always has trouble with his children and the world. I mean the best of God's children have trouble with the world, don't they?
I think the church is having trouble with the world today.
Well, the churches are definitely having trouble with the world today. But we live in what church age? We're going to get into this in the parables. What church age do we live in?
Probably not. We have, I hope, lived in Philadelphia, but it looks like more like Laodicea.
That's right. We're in the Laodicean age.
Although I think Philadelphia goes out to the end, very likely.
Well, Laodicea means what? I don't want to hear lukewarm. That's not what it means. It doesn't mean lukewarm. Now, when I say this and explain this to you, a light's going to come on. What does Laodicea mean? It comes from Laos, which is a Greek word for what? The Latin is Laos. All right. What does Laos mean? Laos. People. All right. Now, what is it? The word for to judge in Greek. What is that word? Dikeo. Dikeo. Laos, Laodicea. They will make up for their mind. They will have a god of their own invention. And they will, what happened in the days of the judges? Every man did that which was right in his what? In his own sight. What is wrong with the church today? They are married to the world so much. Even Baptist churches which have been standing for the truth for 2,000 years have become to smell like the world. And to copy the world in the last days. These are true churches. They're looking and smelling like the world. Like the world. And God said to what that church? What did He say to that Laodicean church? You make me sick. I wish that you were hot, or I wish that you were cold. I could at least do something with you. If you were hot, you'd be doing something. If you were cold, you'd know you were cold. But you're just sitting right there in the middle. You're just happy with your own judgment and with your own self. With your own self. That's the age that we live in. Are there any perfect churches? I haven't had any yet. I haven't found any perfect churches yet. Boy, I tell you what, I love this church here. I love this. This is one of the greatest churches I've ever been in. It's not perfect. But boy, I enjoy what I'm doing here. See, I'm teaching you this morning in this church. For 12 years I've been teaching in this church. Just going right along. 12 years. Hadn't all been easy. But God has given me a long life and a great legacy in the classes that I've taught. I have people who come up to me in this church and say, I was in your class 10 years ago. I don't even know them. They're teaching. They're out there preaching. They're missionaries. They're doing something. Well, we live in that age. We just need to understand that we live in that age. And it's not good. But also, it's right next to looking up, for our redemption draws nigh. Well, right there's where we're going to quit. And we're going to get in here next week. Number 12.
You know, Jim,
Yes.
it's interesting that what I got out of this lesson today. Of course, you know how my mind works when you start getting me thinking. How God cleansed the earth with the flood with Noah, and then He cleansed the earth again with Adam's seed. To me, He cleansed it again when He laid the foundation for Jesus Christ to die for us. But to me, He cleansed it when He with Noah with the ark, and then He cleansed it again with Adam's seed.
Well, when the Lord came on this earth, He blessed the earth. When Jesus walked as a man, He blessed the ground because He walked on His earth. He blessed the ground. We saw what God in the flesh was like. But on the cross of Calvary came judgment and came blessing. Judgment and blessing. How did He judge the earth? John 3:36. John 3:18. How did He judge the earth? That the world would not believe, and the world is condemned already, because they did not believe in the only begotten Son, the only begotten Son of God. Well, Brother David, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for our visitors being here, Brother Mike Sixers. And it was a blessing having you here.
Hey, Jim, we've been listening to your class for over a month. Tell me just briefly about the book. What is the name of it, and where can we get it?
All right, the book that next week I'm going to have an Indian giveaway in this class. And in that Indian giveaway, I'm going to give away one of those books. It's called An Introduction to the Thoughts and Customs of the American Indian. They're selling the Doctrines of the Bible in the bookstores at Rousseau's and also the Greek Grammar. I think the only place that's got the Doctrines is downtown in the Haverfield building, or the Greek Grammar, and then they've got, I think, one out there at East Hills Mall. And when I left, I did a book signing over there Friday night. They only had one book left in stock when I left, so I don't want it. It may be gone now too. But anyway, I've got some of them also. So you can get them even off the website. They're on there. But it's called An Introduction to the Thoughts and Customs of the American Indian. And I talked about a giveaway in there, but next Sunday morning you're going to see an Indian giveaway. All right? We're going to have a drawing here, and you're going to get things. All right.
Okay, Jim already said something about it, but we have two guests, Joyce Wilder and Susan Weaver. You have to stand up and say something. No, that's all right. They're Mike's sisters, and they're from Oregon, so say hi to them before we leave.